I finally did it. I convinced the team to go out and buy the best Ford Bronco that nobody wants. And in this video, I'm gonna show you which Bronco we bought, and Case and I and my dad are gonna talk about it because this is a really hot take and it's not what you think. Let's get right into it. Now, Case and I are out here at Brighton Ford. And Case, how many Broncos do you think they have on the lot?
Several.
Several. I mean, I think, well, it's just Broncos in every direction you look. So we have our choice of Broncos. And initially, it was this Bronco that got me excited. What do you think, Case?
It's pretty cool. It could be a more exciting color, but I do like that it's a Sasquatch Bronco. We haven't had a Bronco since they first came out.
That's right. It's been like 4 years since we've long-termed a Bronco. There's been some changes in the years, but this was the Bronco that got me really excited when I first saw it. Now, this is a trim called the Black Diamond, and this is kind of the everyman four-wheel drive Bronco. So this has got all of the off-road stuff you would realistically ever need for fun out on the trail, but it's still a little bit more basic on the inside. And then, Case, what does that Sasquatch package get you?
Well, the Sasquatch package gets you 35s, which we love. These are what? They're technically Goodyear Wranglers, right? But they pay to get the Wrangler part not on the tire.
Yeah, they're big that you call them Goodyear Territory MTs, but somewhat related to the Wrangler. You're exactly right. And then the diff situation on these is really cool.
Yeah, front and rear selectable lockers and a disconnecting sway bar. So the Sasquatch package turns these into absolute rock crawling beasts.
So look, this seems like the obvious choice, right? It's affordable, it's got locking diffs, it's got the 35s, but then when you come back here and actually look at the price tag,
which we can't really see through the glass.
Yeah, which you can't see. You're just going to have to take my word on it. The sticker on this affordable Everyman Bronco is $58,755.
Which is still pretty pricey, Tommy.
So what happened? I thought that the Black Diamond was supposed to be like the, look at me, I'm kind of rugged and I'm just starting out Bronco, but clearly this isn't it, so we got to keep looking.
Now, Tommy, another option would be something like this Outer Banks. It seems a little bit more street style in this package. We've got body color matched fenders. We don't have nearly as much tire, and this is not a Sasquatch package, but you still get a lot of capability. It is also kind of cool that we have a gloss black roof here, so it's not the flat black like we get on a lot of the more rugged models. So it's an interesting combination, but I kind of feel like us being based in Colorado, we need something a little more rugged than that.
Yeah, and look, I think that this is a great trim for someone in LA, right? If you just want your Bronco to take to the beach, this would be perfect. And I kind of love the look of this shiny black top. It's kind of a different style compared to the flat black we see on most of them. So I think there's some cool stuff going for this.
There is, but the tires just look a little scrawny next to a Sasquatch package.
They sure do.
That.
No, you can't have that. So unfortunately, this Outer Banks, right?
It's not going to be the one.
It's a no-go. Boom! This is it. We found it, folks. The base Bronco. You guys all know how much of a fan I am of base cars because I think a lot of the time you get 95% of the usability and the capability, everything you need without paying the big money. Case, what do you think of our new Bronco?
Man, if we thought that the Outer Banks looked a little scrawny, look at these wheels and tires, Tommy. We're planning to go off-road, and of course you could buy one of these, build it out yourself, but realistically, you're probably going to spend as much, if not more, doing that on your own as you would just getting it from the factory.
And listen, Case kind of alluded to it, but this is actually not the Bronco we bought, even though I was pushing for this for a while.
Really?
Now, those wheel and tire package...
You were pushing for this, Tommy?
Dude, I genuinely was, because I'm big into affordable, quote-unquote, affordable new vehicles, and this is about as cheap as you get a new Bronco.
You like these casters for wheels?
I adore the steel wheels. I think they are so cool. Purposeful, straight to the point, no nonsense. The Bridgestone tires, though, are such a bummer.
Tommy, it's the size of a bottle cap.
The little piano coasters on this thing. No, it does look silly, but initially my plan, as Case kind of alluded to, was buy a base Bronco, stick on some rubber, and then kind of build it up as you go. Maybe do like the bumper next, because this is just a crappy plastic bumper. But then when you start looking at lifts, and then specifically the locker situation, things get pretty expensive.
So this is not the one?
No, so if you look in here, right, like, oh, I wish it was the one. It's got the cloth seats. but it doesn't have any locking diffs at all, right? It doesn't have the front locker, it doesn't have the rear locker. And then it's still $44,000.
Yeah, which is not that cheap.
Yeah, so you can see $43,575. This one's got the hard top, it's got the 10-speed auto, it's got the sound deadening. So it's more affordable, but it isn't really that cheap, as you mentioned. And I think here at Brighton Ford, they had this thing marked down to like 41. So it's a little bit more affordable, but I just think it's a little bit too low end for what we need out on the trail, right?
We could do better.
We can do better. Now, the next one, which would be really cool, but they're just impossible to find, is the base Squatch, which you could get for a couple of years. I don't know if you can get one for 25, but what the base Squatch is, no one calls it that.
Yeah, you do.
It's a base model with the Sasquatch package, but they're rare as hen's teeth. So this is not the one. We're going to keep looking.
Now, Tommy, here's a Bronco worth considering. This is also an Outer Banks, but with a Sasquatch package. So we have all the off-road goodies that we want. Nicely equipped too. The interior on this one, kind of hard to see through the glass, but it's nice and two-tone. It's got a little bit of brown and a little bit of black with some contrast stitching, so it's nice inside. This color is awesome. I like these wheels a lot, especially in gray. So cool color combo, all the off-road goodies that we want. What do you think?
I think we're getting pretty close. I mean, I think we've determined this eruption green, best color you can get on the Bronco.
That's a tough call. There's a lot of good colors. This is up there for me, but I agree, this eruption green looks great.
Yeah, and then these wheels are just awesome. So this is kind of like what are the ones you love? The Factor?
Oh, the 1552 analogs?
Yeah, 1552.
Yeah, I do like those.
Very similar, not quite the same as you pointed out, but the wheel's awesome. So we're on to something, but I think we can still do one better.
Yeah, that's true. I like some of what we've got going on here. I like the steel bumper. I'm not in love with the side steps, but in general, this is a pretty good package. $63,000 though, so it's not inexpensive.
Now this rig is pretty cool. This one's a 24, right? It's a demonstrator, which means we might be able to get a little bit of money off on the hood here, but this is a wild track, and I've spent some time in wild tracks. It's kind of like the desert running version of the Bronco, but what's interesting about this one is the Broncos we've looked at have all been the 4-cylinders. This one is the twin turbo 2.7 V6. So Case, do we go 4-cylinder or do we go V6?
I do like having the 6-cylinder and the extra power, but that's what we had last time, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to switch it up a little bit and test a different powertrain in the Bronco.
No, I think you're right. So that first edition we had in yellow, that was the EcoBoost V6, and I'm really interested in seeing how the 4-cylinder is, so maybe we'll try to find a 4-cylinder. So Wild Track is cool, but we're gonna keep going. So I won't keep you waiting much longer, but this would be a really cool one. We didn't buy this one, but I love this spec. So this is actually a Badlands. So this is a full off-road spec. It's got the rocker protection. It's got the off-road tires, but these are the little off-road tires, right, Case?
Yeah, and not that little, but this is still a trim that gets you quite a few off-road goodies, like that front bumper, recovery points.
You got it. And if I look on the inside of this thing too, you're not really going to be able to see it, but on the dash, you got that line of switches, and this Badlands front and rear locking diff and the sway bar disconnect, that is all great stuff. And you don't see a lot of these 33-inch tall tire versions. This one though is pretty pricey. Even without Sasquatch, it comes in at $62,430. So pretty crazy. Now I do want to show one more. We're going to take a little side trick over here. This would be kind of an interesting rig to buy, one that we haven't even considered. Case just went and drove this very Bronco, right, Case?
Yeah, that's true. This is the updated Bronco Sport, which they've done quite a bit to. This one, you can see up front, has a more solid front bumper center section with some recovery points. They've even got versions of these that have a slight lift, a more aggressive tire, so decently capable machine. Some of these updated Bronco Sports and even some of the older Bronco Sports with just the rear locker,
yeah,
as they came back then. But this is not a vehicle that we've ever had as a long-termer.
No, and it would be kind of interesting. Our buddy Ryan at Driving Sports TV, he already has one of these as a long-termer and he's got great coverage on it. The one I'd be tempted for is that Sasquatch version, which is pretty cool, but not a Bronco Sport. Here, we'll finish this up. They also have some other cool trims of Bronco here, like the Heritage,
right?
Which is just the best color combo with the white wheels. I love the Heritages, but they're very pricey.
That's true. I can see a Heritage Sport right past you there.
Yeah, the Robin Egg Blue is awesome. But I'll stop leaving you in suspense. This is the Bronco that I have been lusting after since I first drove this car 3 years ago. I present to you our new Ford Bronco Everglades. That's right. So the Everglades is a really interesting trim of the Bronco. It's actually been discontinued for 2025, and I've talked to some dealers about Everglades. And this is one of the most misunderstood editions of the Bronco. Actually, it's the most misunderstood. And from the folks I've talked to, they didn't sell very well at all. Because what this is a hardcore off-road Bronco that comes with all of the off-road goodies, but it only comes with the 4-cylinder, and it's pretty basic on the inside, right, Case?
Yeah, it is, but it's still well equipped enough to be a comfortable daily driver. We've got a lot of cool features on this one though, like the roof rack, like the snorkel, like the big worn winch that you see kind of pasted onto the front bumper.
Yeah, so this is a steel bumper Bronco.
Yep.
And then this is the factory integrated worn winch. And you can, I think pasted is the perfect word. It's not really that well integrated into the front end, but it's so rare to find a vehicle that comes out of the showroom with recovery built in. And I think that is just such a cool feature.
Yeah, that's nice. And then we've still got all those Sasquatch package features that we were talking about. We've got big 35s, we've got that rocker protection, and the eruption green that you were very excited about having, plus a little graphic on the side, which I think is pretty cool.
Yep, and this was actually functional. If I recall, this was supposed to tell your water fording with these little ticks. This vehicle had like 2.6 inches more water fording than the standard Sasquatch because they actually raised the diff breather and the trans breather to give you a little bit more water fording, and these ticks are supposed to kind of give you an indication of that. And then the raised air intake is also super cool, kind of climbs up the A-pillar, but unlike some of the Toyota ones that look a little tacked on, I actually did a pretty decent job integrating this.
Definitely, it looks very modern and very integrated. And if we pop open the door, you can check out the interior. Once again, and Tommy mentioned that it's kind of a basic interior, but it's not that basic. You still get a pretty comfortable setup here with a fair number of features, a decent sized screen. So I wouldn't call it all that Spartan.
No, you're right, but as Broncos go, especially for the price point, people wanted more. So like there's no ventilated seats in this Bronco at all, right? You don't have power seats either. They're just traditional manual seats. So it's kind of fairly basic in that respect, right? In terms of all the little gizmos here and there. But it gives you, like Kay said, I mean, it still is pretty luxurious. You don't have a heated steering wheel, but you do have heated seats. You have dual zone automatic climate control. So it's not exactly a cabbage cart in here. It's just for the price point, which we'll talk about in a second. I think people wanted more. So a lot of people went out and bought like a Big Bend or something that gave you more features. Oh, we got a call coming in, Case. It's from Big Cheese. Are you ready to check out the new Bronco?
Yeah, hey, where are you?
We'll drive up front. We'll show it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Wow, Tommy. We bought the most unloved and yet the best Bronco ever because we have not only Eruption Green, but we have the Sasquatch package. We have the snorkel, which is a real snorkel, and we didn't have to cut into it because that's terrifying. And we got a winch. I mean, I don't get why people didn't love these because they are ultimately, I think it's because of 6-cylinder.
Well, so here's the thing, right? This is a $57,000 Bronco, right? We paid a little bit less. We paid about $55,000 for it because it is a 2024. They don't do these for 25. But it's exactly that, right? Everybody wanted the 6-cylinder Bronco when these debuted, and this was $57,000 for a 4-cylinder, and it didn't have the power seats or the heated steering wheel. So like folks were like, I'm just gonna go get a Big Bend, or I'm just gonna go get a Wild Track and spend a little bit more, right? So these are very, very rare. I don't think I've ever seen more than like 2 ever in person in the wild. But they're super cool, and like the roof rack is a really interesting idea and design, which I think is awesome. And like it's got the vinyl floors, so you can easily wash it out. It even has the little floor drains here, so if I pop that open, I can wash all the crud just straight out onto the ground. So I think that these are cool, and Eruption Green's the one to get.
Yeah, you know, this is the classic everything you need and nothing you don't. You don't need a 6-cylinder when you're off-roading. I know all you 392 Jeep guys out there say, 6, I want the 8. But let's face it, if you're really off-roading, you're not using a lot of horsepower or torque.
Yeah.
And yet, here you have all the off-road goodies, right? without all of the added luxury items, which I'm not sure I want in a Bronco, right? I want this thing to be hosable.
Yeah.
And I want it to be off-roadable because that's how we're going to do it.
Do you have the window sticker there?
I don't.
Okay, well, we'll check it out in a second. But should we get it out on the road and take it for our first drive?
Sure, let's do that.
Here we go, the first start.
Now, as you remember, Tommy, we did have the first edition.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And the first edition kind of gave us, it was actually more luxurious than this one. It gave us all the bells and whistles in that thing. You had the nice seats, you had the ventilated seats, and you had all of the tech you could ever want in that thing. But I'm looking at this vehicle, like, I don't think we have adaptive cruise control. Do you see that?
Yeah.
We don't have adaptive cruise control. We do have blind spot monitoring, which is great, but we don't have the latest and greatest in driver assistance.
But what we do have, which is great, is a front, rear, locker, and disconnectable sway bar. So we have all of that.
No. We have a turn assist.
We don't have disconnectable sway bar?
No, we're missing a hole.
Are we?
Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun.
no. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice.
Oh, no. So we are missing disconnectable sway bar.
Yeah, that is the one thing that they kind of cheaped out on.
Oh, no.
It's
no.
kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But look, it's independent front suspension. Who cares about the disconnectable sway bar? I say that and our back's going to get tired in the first 10 minutes. But we're out on the road in our new Everglades.
Now I'm starting to see why people didn't buy these, Tommy.
Why? Because the sway bar disconnect?
Well, you're missing, for $57,000,
Yeah.
you would expect to have a lot of that.
These are also pretty heavy because they have all of the stuff bolted to them. So let's see how the power is. Are you ready?
Yeah, give it the beans.
Let's see how the 300 horsepower 2.3 feels.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. And you want to hear the party trick on this thing?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, you're going to hate this.
Oh, the snorkel.
Put down the window.
Okay.
Get your mic ready.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you hear that?
It's not as bad as the TRD Pro or the Trailhunter Toyota, but it does have that same snoring. This is a baby snoring walrus, not the full-grown male one, Tommy.
Oh, I think that this thing is so cool, and I always am also kind of a sucker for things that people don't buy in huge volumes.
Yeah.
And you never see the Everglades. You see so many Broncos, but never the Everglades. This is a secret enthusiast version. Everyone, if you got a lot of money, you buy the Raptor, but if you want to be cool, you get the Everglades in eruption green. A couple things that would be even cooler. I don't think the Everglades ever came with the manual. I think they're automatic only.
Yep.
The manual would have been, the 7-speed would have been sick.
Yeah.
And then you can't get them in 2 doors either, which also would have been pretty cool. But we just traded a 2-door Jeep in on this. That's the news, by the way, which I'm not too happy about. So the 2-door Jeep is just really tough to live with on an everyday basis. Same thing with the Bronco. So I think for resale and just for the fact that most people buy 4 doors, it's probably good we bought the 4-door.
I mean, you went on the program, right? And you guys did a lot of, I'd call it mud bogging if I was in the South.
Well, it is the Everglades.
It is the Everglades version.
Which is silly because we live in Colorado where there's zero mud.
But look, it's got the important stuff. It's got the Sasquatch package, right? Mm-hmm. And it's got, the really cool, almost expedition-like look to it.
Yep.
Right?
We've got the hard top here.
With the fabric on it, so it doesn't sound like there's, ours was the very first model, and we had to actually get the top replaced because the first one sounded like a bunch of little gnomes mining for gold up there.
Yeah, it's really bad.
But this one sounds really good. We do have the auxiliary switches, which is nice.
Uh-huh.
And let's face it, Tommy, I love the Raptor, Bronco Raptor, but it's pretty much overkill.
Yeah, well, the other problem, too, with the Raptor is, look, 37s are awesome, and the protection is awesome, and the suspension is awesome, but what's not awesome is trying to get that thing through the trees in Colorado, because it is so unbelievably wide. It is so wide, and this thing is already wide, let alone the Bronco Raptor. So
are we trying to justify the fact that we should have spent
but
more
those are like
money?
80, right? They're not. We paid 55 for this, which
Well, you
is
can get a used one for probably 70s. now.
probably too much. I think we probably overpaid a little for it, but
Yeah, that's the way at TFL. We buy high and sell low.
that's our goal always.
That's always our goal.
For sure. And by no means is this cheap, right?
No.
I think
it's the same amount as the 4Runner that we just bought.
well, that was 58.
Whoa, this is 57.
Yeah. So we paid 55 for it.
Yeah.
So it's a little under that.
Okay.
But it is
it's also
expensive.
2014.
2024.
2024.
Don't scare
Sorry.
me like
yeah,
that.
sorry.
Jeez.
2024. But you see what I'm saying? This is an apples to apples comparison now with the 4Runner.
Sure, but that's
Money-wise.
on 32s. This is on 35s, baby. Whoop whoop.
That has a rear window that rolls down.
And honestly, with the
This has a roof that comes off.
yeah, with the power on this thing, the 325 pound-feet of torque. Case will disagree with me on this, but as long as a car will do 80 miles an hour, who cares how fast it gets there? This is way faster than a Citroën 2CV, so therefore, it's the fastest a car ever needs to be.
Look, I think if you're going to compare this to, and we'll do that video, right? If you're going to compare it to the 4Runner, because they do actually compete directly. If you're going to compare them, then I think this is the one that will be much better off-road, whereas that is the one that will be much better on-road. And that has, you know, a lot of pluses and minuses, but that's for another day.
And listen, like, this is not a wheelbarrow on the road.
Dude, I love this. I love this. Like I said, for me, the ultimate car is always the one that is everything you need and nothing you don't.
Well, that would be the base Bronco.
No,
people.
it doesn't have it. No, it doesn't. No. We just did that with the Jeep and roll up windows. You need electric windows. Sorry, maybe I'm being too bougie or too posh, but electric windows in 2025 are kind of, you know, I can't even think of any other car that doesn't come with them.
The base Bronco, to its credit, is moved out of the 1930s. It does have power windows and power locks.
Yeah,
right?
one just drove by. It looks sad.
Well,
It's
that
little
case-
tiny wheels and tires.
Case said it looks like a shopping cart.
Yeah, exactly. This is badass.
Yes, it is. No, I think that this is cool, and it's like the enthusiast Bronco. And the nice thing is we need a recovery rig when we're off-roading, and we probably should have built that Jeep up, but the problem with building that Jeep up is it doesn't have a locker, and then when you do that, once again, you should have just bought the Rubicon. This has got everything out of the gate, right? It's got the big tires, it's got the winch, and it's got the locking diff, so we can take this on off-road shoots and always have the option to recover somebody at any time. Which is what we really need for videographers.
Yeah, we'll justify it that way, but I love this. I just think it's ultimately cool. And look, 40 years from now, right? 40 years from now, when people are collecting Broncos, classic Broncos, i.e.
This will be the classic Bronco.
This will be, yeah, forget the first edition. They made thousands of those. This will be the one people want because this is the rarest. And I love the fact that not only is it rare, but the color is just killer, it just kills. And like I said, it's the kind of vehicle that you can take off-road, like you said, immediately and not worry about because it will do incredibly well, as we know.
So I think they only built these for 2 or 3 years. I think it was 22, 23, and 24.
How many do they sell? That's a real
I
question.
don't know, and I don't think Ford's going to tell us that number.
No.
But I remember talking to some of the big dealer groups, and this was sort of around the time that the Raptor came out.
Yep.
And the dealer is saying he had lines out the door for Raptors.
Yep.
And they had Everglades that they could not sell. And this is proof of that, actually. This is a leftover brand new 2024. This is not a used car that they couldn't sell. We're halfway through 25. And folks just do not want the Everglades.
So let's see. We buy cars people don't want that are expensive.
That you can't buy anymore. We're really good at this.
With the smallest possible powertrain. There seems something very wrong with that, and yet it feels very TFL, Tommy.
Yeah. I do want to show you. There's a Ranger, by the way.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So that's another truck we just got rid of.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. That's our Ranger Raptor.
Yep, there it is.
Yep, getting ready to
In chili red.
move on to its new owner.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you this, though.
What?
Look at all of the Broncos lined up like cordwood here.
Oh, there's another eruption green.
Yeah, well, Case and I just showed that one.
Yeah.
Well, look, they've got to have like 35 Broncos here. So if you guys want a Bronco, Brighton Ford has got you covered. Look at them all. They just keep going. Every shape, size, 2
I
four-door.
like the red one.
Yeah, that one was really cool. But that was 62 grand.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was even more expensive because it had the leather. But I think we did pretty good here.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm very happy with this. I love the fact that it's ready to off-road out of the gate with the winch, with the snorkel.
Look, we're already going to off-road here. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Go for it.
Woo!
Ooh, there you go.
This thing's a beast.
It is a beast.
All right, folks, let us...
I think we need to air down if we do that again, Tommy.
Yeah, for these little pebbles. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And this has been Tommy.
And Roman saying thanks for watching. And yeah, we'll get a lot more content with this. Can't wait, dude. Let's go off-roading.
Let's do it.